Hello everyone, I am Divya Mittal, IS officer of 2013 batch. A lot of civil service aspirants asked me about interviews and tips for interviews because I happened to get 240 and 223 out of 300 in my attempts in 2011 and 2012. So this video is my attempt at giving you certain tips which might be helpful to you in your upcoming interview. Okay, first the basics. First of all, you have to be prepared on your personals. By personals, I mean you need to take a look at your resume and see the broad areas that the resume encompasses. So, for instance, if you've done engineering, I don't mean that you need to know exactly the nitty-gritties of your engineering because I'm sure most of you will not remember what your engineering subjects were and what you did in them. But you need to understand questions, you need to answer questions like, for instance, I am from IIT. So, I prepared questions like, do we need more IITs? Or what is the difference between an NIT and an IIT? And with so many IITs, don't you think the quality of students or the teachers are going down? So those kind of questions which pertain to your personal background. So again, for instance, I lived abroad. I lived in London. So I prepared all questions on London specific questions. For instance, the culture of London. You should have some broad idea about everything that you have mentioned in your resume. Second point is current affairs knowledge. Goes without saying, as a civil service aspirant, you need to be very thorough with your current affairs. By that, I do not mean, which also takes me to the third point, that you need to be absolutely thorough with each factual point. That is neither possible nor very required. What you need to have is a broad understanding of everything that is going on around you. That is what is required. So a lot of people ask me that lots of times factual questions are asked in the interview and we may or may not know the answers to those questions. How much does it hamper us in the interview? So my personal take on it, and after seeing a lot of my friends and myself also, given my interview performance and the marks, I feel that if you do not answer a factual question, it is not that much of a problem. But the problem comes because the aspirants get worked up because they can't answer a factual question, and hence they start answering very underconfidently to questions which follow. Sometimes because of the pressure of not being able to answer a factual question, they actually mess up some very simple questions as well. That is where the problem begins. So please don't worry on that count. The fourth point, which I want to make very clear to all of you, is about views. See, a lot of coaching institutes might tell you that it's better not to take a view and it's better to just take, what is called the madhyam marg or the middle route and just give the pros and cons of any situation and don't really give your view. But my take on this is that I, in every interview, used to take a very defined view on every issue. Because see, as civil servants, we are supposed to take certain very important decisions for the country. So they don't really want, according to me, people who cannot have views on things which are not even, at this point, your view is not even going to change anything in the country. So if you don't have the guts or the understanding to take a view at this stage, personally, I don't think that it is going to reflect very highly on you if you are supposed to sit and take decisions for the entire country. That is my personal take on it. And as I said, I have always taken views, sometimes very strong views. Obviously, your views need to be backed by explanations or empirical evidence or certain arguments, basically. Needless to say, please don't lie. Don't try to fool the interviewers. For example, if you've written an interest in your resume, in your form, which is not really your interest, that can really hurt. So I don't think that any of you would have lied on your resume. Now, another basic question that I am asked very often is that, ma'am, I don't have a good profile, so to speak, that I'm not from an Ivy League institution or I don't have work X or something like that. Is it going to hurt me in the interview? My very clear answer to you is it is not going to hurt you. They are not looking for IT engineers or IM MBAs. They are looking for people who can work for the country with passion and who are true to their job. So it doesn't matter what your background is. If you can show them that you have the conviction and you have the courage to do your work honestly and properly, that is all that is going to take for you to crack the interview. So please don't worry on the count of a profile. Another question frequently asked is, this is my nth attempt. So is it going to go against me? Or I have a very, my age is on the wrong side of, whatever number. So again, these things don't matter. When the interviewers look at you, they look at the whole package in terms of what are your views, how you are presenting them, what kind of conviction you have. So please don't worry on these things and just focus on your preparation for the moment. Okay, now I'll give you certain basic questions which were either asked to me in the interview or they are questions which are generally asked and my take on those questions. First basic question, why civil service? See, a lot of people will tell you a lot of things. My simple answer to this question was always public service. And I do not believe that anybody who wants to be in civil service would be in it if it were not at least in some measure for public service. There could be other motives like saying that this is a prestigious service, or that it gives me diversity, but public service has to be there. So in my every answer, despite people telling me that it's a cliched answer and the interviewers do not appreciate an answer like public service, I always said public service. And I really do believe that as a civil servant, I am in the service for public service. You can be asked follow-up questions like, okay, if it was public service, why didn't you come in the service earlier? Or is it the only consideration? See, those questions can have different answers. So for instance, I myself, I worked, I did my engineering, I did my MBA, then I worked, and then I came into civil service. So if somebody asked me that why not civil services earlier, my answer was that when I was working in London, I realized that I wanted to contribute to society, and I was unable to do so when I was just working in the private job. And hence, after that realization dawned on me, I came back to India and I started preparing. And that answer was perfectly acceptable to every board. So please don't try to make up things. Similarly, if they ask you, is it the only consideration? So the answer to that for me was that public service was the only consideration in civil services, but the fact that it is a very prestigious service or that it gives me diversity, that's the icing on the cake. And obviously, who wouldn't want something like that? So it basically makes civil services the perfect package or the perfect sort of job that one can hope for. Again, I've already discussed this. Should I take a stand? See, I have taken, as I said, a very strong stand in all my interviews. So I was asked in one interview, should India vote against Sri Lanka in the UN? Till then, the vote hadn't happened. And it was, I was really cross-questioned and grilled on this particular question with counter questions like, should regional aspirations actually affect your foreign policy? Now, I took a stand in that interview and I said India should vote against Sri Lanka in the UN. Again, I was asked counter questions like, what if then Sri Lanka votes against us on Kashmir? See, my explanation to you, I am not going to explain my stand, but what I am going to explain to you, you are a civil service aspirant. Your knowledge and your current outlook towards things may not be perfect, but the fact that you're willing to take a stand and you have an informed stand. When they were grilling me or posing counter questions, I tried to present what I felt was the right thing, and I had it backed up by various views or various facts, or not facts in terms of numbers, but various arguments. So once they see that you have an argument which is well rounded and you have thought of each aspect, then they would accept your viewpoint no matter what it is. So my personal take is, please take a stand, and on things which are ongoing, which are current issues, which are hot issues, please already form a stand, already form opinions before going to the interview, so that when you go there you can defend your stand properly. Okay, another question which is very frequent is that if your peon takes corruption or bribe of ₹10, what action will you take against him? This is basically a question which is asking you indirectly, are values black and white or are they grey? See, I honestly believe that values are black and white. Okay, so a corruption of ₹10 is equivalent to a corruption of ₹10,000 or 10 lakhs or 1 crore. So I would take exactly the same action. I would issue a show cause notice and I would give a warning, and if this happens again, I will take penal action. Now at this stage, nobody expects you to know what the penal actions are. I now, having worked, having been taken charges of SDMs, etc., I know what exactly you can do, but I'm not going to tell you, because you are not supposed to impress the interview panel by your knowledge. This question was asked to me in the interview. Are the principles of success which are valid in corporate sector relevant in government services as well? Now, this is important for all of you people who have worked in the private sector. So my answer to this was, there are certain universal principles of success and there are certain specific principles which are specific to a job. So universal principles like hard work, honesty, perseverance are the same in the corporate as well as the government sector. So those are the same principles. But there are certain specific principles. For instance, in the government sector, I think the single most important principle of success is having empathy for people. So if you don't have empathy for the poor or for the people in general, then you can never succeed in the civil service. So those are certain principles which are different for the government and the corporate sector. In case of corporate sector, it would be something like the ability to make money or to increase the bottom line, or things like, and it would depend on the particular sector of the corporate sector as well. So if you're in the IT, some technical skills would be important for you. But that's the broad principle that I want to give you is there are certain universal principles and there are certain specific principles of success in each job, and this was my answer in the interview as well. Okay, this question is again very interesting, and it's kind of puts you off guard a little bit. My message to you: whatever the question, no matter how tricky it is, just stay cool and try to answer to the best of your ability. And your honesty and your will to work for the people will shine through. So don't worry about that. Okay, so this question was that the system has worked like this for the past 50 years. How do you think an individual like you can change it? Now, I really feel that the system has not really worked like this. The system has evolved and the system has improved for the past 60 years. For instance, the transparency has increased to unprecedented levels with laws like RTI. It's just unimaginable. It probably was unimaginable at independence. And so, step by step, we are improving as a nation. We are improving as a system, and lots of individuals have contributed to that change, or for the change in the right direction. So I think I as an individual can also help the system move in the right direction and change it for the better. So I'm not saying that I'm going to come and I am this superwoman kind of a person who's going to transform the system. I'm just going to make incremental changes and take a step forward in the right direction. Okay, the question is, with so many problems going on in India, like naxalism, terrorism, corruption, low job creation, don't you think the future is doomed? Now, my answer to this question was that India, since its independence, has seen so many problems and phases where the future did look extremely bleak. Examples being the Punjab insurgency or the emergency, and there are various other, or the 1991 crisis where we thought that we are economically doomed. So, but our country has the resilience to have come out of each problem with flying colors, and we have come to this stage where we are considered almost like a superpower at this stage. So I strongly believe that the future for India is bright. I'm absolutely optimistic about where we're headed, and I think the future is far from being doomed. It is actually very bright. Okay, what are the qualities required for a civil servant? Like I've also mentioned in one of the previous questions, I think the single most important quality for a civil servant is to have empathy for poor, or empathy for people in general. Apart from that, you need to have people skills. You need to have management skills where you can manage your team. You should be able to accept diverse points of views, because in a government setup, you cannot just overpower everybody else and just move ahead. You're supposed to take care of the viewpoints of all the stakeholders and then move. Similarly, obviously, certain qualities go without saying, like integrity, honesty, and just basically a quest to serve people to the best of your ability. Do you think you possess them? Well, I think I possess them to a large extent, to a great degree. But obviously, I'm not perfect, and I just hope that I will be honing these skills and improving upon these qualities as I go along in the service. Okay, there will be lots of pulls and pressures in the job. Will you listen to your political masters? Well, when this question was asked to me, you please be sure that you listen to the interview very, very, very carefully. Because the question asks, will you listen to your political masters? My answer was, of course I will listen to my political masters, because they are the representatives of the people. And because the people is my master, eventually it is my job to listen to the voice of the people, which they are representing. But will I always do their bidding? The answer is no. Because at the end of the day, I am a servant of the people and I am guided only by the constitution, which is my the basic guiding light in my service. So I will do only what my conscience allows me to do and the constitution allows me to do. And if the political masters are also asking for something which is in line with these two things, I will do it. Otherwise, I will not. And there is no question of being swayed by any pull or pressure. Okay, I'll end this video here. I hope this was helpful to you. I wish you all the best for the upcoming interviews. And if you have any specific queries, please put them down in the comment section and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you.